For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. Russian-installed authorities of the Kherson region have accused Ukrainian forces of carrying out a missile strike on a hotel in the city of Kherson, an area Ukraine says it's reclaimed. Moscow-backed health officials in the region said one person was killed, 3 more wounded. Ukrainian officials haven't commented on the strike. This comes as Russia's President Vladimir Putin signed laws today absorbing Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia regions of Ukraine into Russia after the Kremlin-orchestrated referendums that Ukraine has blasted as a sham. Ukrainian troops, meanwhile, are pressing a counteroffensive to reclaim those very regions. The Kremlin held the door open, though, for expanding areas of Ukraine under Russian control following the absorption of those areas today. Asked about Ukraine taking back some territory in the 4 regions after their declared annexation, Dmitry Peskov said Russia would reclaim them. Moscow plans to send an additional 300,000 troops to the newly annexed regions. The U.S., meanwhile, announced a new package of funding, $625 million worth of military aid. Max Pringle reports.
The package includes high-tech mobile rocket systems called HIMARS, howitzers, and other long-range artillery and ammunition. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
Throughout this year, the United States has rallied the world to support the people of Ukraine as they defend their freedom and democracy against Russian aggression. As we are demonstrating again today, the United States will continue to provide Ukraine with key capabilities to meet their evolving battlefield requirements.
Russian forces have faced a series of battlefield setbacks that have exposed weaknesses the Kremlin did not want to be exposed. Deputy Assistant Defense Secretary Laura Cooper said poor training, military discipline, and brutality have also been exposed.
Most of us watching this have been appalled and horrified.
Russia's effort to incorporate the 4 embattled regions in Ukraine's east and south was done so hastily that even the exact borders of the territories being absorbed were unclear. I'm Max Pringle.
A malfunctioning South Korean ballistic missile blew up today as it plowed into the ground during a drill with the U.S. that was a reprisal for North Korea's launch a day earlier of a weapon that flew over Japan and has the range to strike U.S. territory Guam. The explosion panicked and confused residents of the coastal city Gangwon. Their concern is that it could be a North Korean attack only grew as the military and government officials provided no explanation about the explosion for hours. The short-range missile that crashed inside an Air Force base is key to South Korea's preemptive and retaliatory strike strategies against North Korea. In the U.S., President Joe Biden is traveling to hurricane-ravaged Florida today with a pledge that federal, state, and local governments will work as one to help rebuild homes, businesses, and lives. Biden plans to put politics on hold for now to focus on those in need during his tour this afternoon of Fort Myers, Florida. Biden plans to meet with residents and small business owners and to thank government officials providing emergency aid and removing debris. Joining Biden in Florida will be 2 of his most prominent Republican critics, Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis and Florida Senator Rick Scott. The Supreme Court is poised to overturn one of the last remaining pillars of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. The High Court heard arguments Tuesday in Merrill v. Milligan, a case claiming racial gerrymandering in Alabama's legislative redistricting. Christopher Martinez has more.
The Supreme Court could be on the verge of once again gutting the 1965 Voting Rights Act, or perhaps just approving a legislative redistricting map that would dilute the votes of Alabama's African American voters. Abba Khanna is a lawyer for the plaintiffs challenging Alabama's new redistricting plan.
Alabama's reliance on untested simulations would unravel decades of progress and take us back to a time with little to no minority representation at the federal, state, and local levels.
The case is called Merrill v. Milligan, and it's a challenge to Alabama's new map for its 7 congressional districts. But Alabama argues that you cannot use racial data to prove that the map is racially discriminatory, a concept this reporter cannot well explain. Here's how LaCour puts it.
They argue that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act requires Alabama to replace its map with a racially gerrymandered plan, maximizing the number of majority-minority districts. But Section 2 requires an electoral process equally open to all, not one that guarantees maximum political success for some over others.
LaCour argued that the districts should be race-neutral, or else they would violate the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause. Reporting for Pacifica Radio News KPFA, I'm Christopher Martinez.
UK Prime Minister Liz Truss has defended her economic plans as she tries to convince her Conservative Party the pain unleashed by her tax-cutting agenda will be worth it. Truss closed a tumultuous Conservative conference today with a speech to delegates after a 4-day gathering that saw policy U-turns from the government, reversing its tax cut on the wealthy and open rebellion from lawmakers. Truss said all change brings disruption and vowed to stick with her plan. I'm Christina Onnested, reporting for Pacifica Radio.